How to brainwash yourself for success. Every day, from the moment you open your eyes, the world is telling you who you are, what you can do, and how far you can go. The voices of fear, doubt, and distraction are relentless. And if you don't consciously override them, they will program you for mediocrity. Taking control starts with awareness. You can't shift what you won't own. You have to become the observer of your thoughts, the gatekeeper of your focus. What are you feeding your brain every morning? What beliefs are you reinforcing with your words? Who are you letting speak into your life? When you start to audit these things, you take the first step toward conscious programming. Because just like you can install limitations, you can also install power. Reprogramming your mind doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you get intentional. When you start feeding yourself with empowering language, clear vision, and strong habits, the brain begins to adapt. It responds to repetition. So when you flood it with belief, certainty, and action, it begins to reorganize your identity around those new standards. You start to think differently, feel differently, move differently, because your internal operating system is shifting. You see, conditioning isn't a one-time event. It's a process. Every single day, your mind is forming associations. It's wiring in thoughts, emotions, and responses based on repetition. If you don't take ownership of that process, your environment will do it for you. And most environments don't push you to greatness. Most environments teach you to play it safe, to stay small, to doubt your gifts. That's why so many people feel stuck, not because they're broken, but because they've unknowingly been programmed to stay in the same loop. Every day, from the moment you wake up, you're being programmed. Your mind is constantly taking in information from your phone, the media, your social feeds, conversations, habits, even your internal dialogue. And here's the truth. Most people are not in control of what they're absorbing. They're on autopilot. They absorb fear, doubt, comparison, and mediocrity without even realizing it. The thoughts you repeat, the beliefs you reinforce, and the emotions you feed daily are shaping your identity and dictating the results you experience in life. Whether you like it or not, you are being programmed. The question is, by who? The more you act in alignment with your desired identity, the faster your brain locks it in. Small wins matter. Every workout you complete, every fear you face, every time you keep your word, you reinforce the idea that you are the type of person who does hard things, who follows through, who grows. And when your identity shifts, the results start to chase you, not the other way around. Because now, success isn't something you're pursuing, it's simply who you are. Results don't shape identity, identity shapes results. Most people try to change their lives by chasing outcomes. They want more money, better health, stronger relationships. So they focus on doing more, hustling harder, pushing through, and they wonder why it feels like a constant uphill battle. It's because they're building on the wrong foundation. You can't outperform your identity. You might get results for a while through willpower, but if deep down you still see yourself as someone who isn't enough, someone who always quits, or someone who's unlucky, your results will eventually collapse to match that internal story. Identity is the invisible force running the entire show. It's the root system that determines how high you can grow. Every decision you make, every action you take, is filtered through who you believe you are. If you identify as someone who always struggles, you'll subconsciously sabotage your success to stay congruent with that identity. If you believe you're someone who thrives under pressure, you'll find strength in chaos. It's not about ego. It's about alignment. The way you see yourself determines the standards you accept and the limits you enforce. This is why real transformation doesn't happen just by changing your habits. It happens when you change the story. You have to speak the new identity into existence. Feel it in your body and show up as it daily. You don't wait until the money comes to feel abundant. You start embodying the mindset of someone who is resourceful and creative. You don't wait until you're fit to act like an athlete. You move like one, eat like one, think like one. That level of congruence rewires your beliefs and sets a new internal standard. It starts with language. Words are powerful tools for reprogramming. When you say, I am disciplined, even when you're not, you're laying the tracks for the new self. When you say, I show up no matter what, you're sending a message to your nervous system, this is who I am now. At first, it might feel fake, that's normal, you're disrupting years of conditioning, but with repetition, those statements start to feel true. Then they become real, then they become automatic. That's the power of repetition. It's not hype, it's not a tactic. It's the mechanism by which transformation becomes permanent. What you repeat, you become. Choose wisely. Your brain doesn't respond to what's true, it responds to what's familiar. Repetition is how familiarity is built, and familiarity becomes belief. Most people don't realize this, but your repeated thoughts become your default patterns. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, that you're always behind, that success is hard for you, even if those things aren't objectively true, your brain will treat them as fact. That's how powerful repetition is. It literally rewires your reality. This is also why changing your environment matters. What you see and hear daily becomes part of your internal loop. If your surroundings echo limitation, scarcity, and fear, that's what your brain absorbs. But if you flood your space with reminders of your potential, quotes, goals, declarations, audios, mentors, you're stacking the deck in your favor. You're setting up repetition that serves you. This is why affirmations and daily declarations aren't fluff. They're neurological training. You're installing a new operating system. Not because saying I am confident magically makes you confident, but because saying it over and over conditions your brain to find evidence that it's true. And when your mind starts to believe it, your behavior starts to change. And when your behavior changes, your results change. That's how you shift your entire life from the inside out. The brain craves efficiency. It doesn't want to think about everything all the time. So it turns repeated thoughts into unconscious programs. That's why it's so critical to choose what you repeat. If you're constantly rehearsing doubt, you're building a future where doubt dominates. But if you rehearse courage, discipline, clarity, you start carving a path where those become automatic. You're not forcing it, you're training it. Think about how habits are formed. It's not magic, it's not talent, it's repetition. Do it once and it's nothing. Do it twice and it feels new. Do it 100 times and it becomes part of who you are. That same rule applies to your thoughts, your language, your focus, and your energy. When you say something to yourself over and over again, whether it's empowering or destructive, your nervous system adapts. You begin to act, feel, and think in alignment with that repeated belief. You become it. Nothing rewires your identity like repeated action. When you consistently follow through, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, you're teaching your brain a new reality. I am the type of person who does what it takes. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent, because repetition is the foundation of mastery. Do it enough and it becomes natural. Do it enough and you stop thinking about it. It just becomes who you are. Your environment is not neutral. It's either pulling you forward or holding you back. The people you surround yourself with, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the energy in your space, all of it is shaping who you're becoming. If you want to evolve, you can't afford to ignore this. You must curate an environment that supports the next level of you, not the version that's trying to stay comfortable. Transformation doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when you align your surroundings with your vision, when your environment reflects your future, not your past. Most people try to change their life while staying in the same environment that created their current results. That's like trying to grow a palm tree in the Arctic. It doesn't matter how much you want it. If the conditions don't support growth, it won't happen. You can have the right mindset, the right drive, the right vision, but if your environment is feeding you negativity, distraction, and low standards, eventually it will wear you down. Willpower can only carry you so far. Environment creates sustainability. You're not just a product of your habits, you're a product of your surroundings. And the fastest way to evolve is to immerse yourself in an environment that makes your next level feel normal. When excellence is the standard around you, you rise. When accountability is expected, you show up. When belief is spoken daily, it becomes your own. You don't need to force growth when your environment is designed for it. It becomes automatic. Look at your circle. Are you surrounded by people who challenge you, who raise your standards, who believe in you even when you forget your own power? Or are you surrounded by people who normalize fear, laziness, gossip, and excuses? Who you spend time with is a preview of your future. If you want to change your life, you need to upgrade your proximity. That doesn't always mean cutting people off, but it does mean creating stronger boundaries and more intentional space for growth-minded voices. Your digital environment matters too. What's on your feed? What shows up the moment you open your phone? Every scroll, every headline, every soundbite is reinforcing a belief or emotional pattern. If you want to program yourself for success, you need to filter what you allow in. Flood your mind with content that empowers, educates, and elevates. Replace entertainment that numbs with inspiration that fuels. Every small shift adds up. Physical space plays a role too. Is your environment one of intention or one of chaos? Your space reflects your energy. Create areas that spark clarity, that remind you of your goals, that make it easier to stay consistent. Even something as simple as organizing your desk, putting up powerful quotes, or placing your vision where you can see it daily can shift your focus. These aren't small details, they're cues to your subconscious. Confidence isn't born from getting everything right. It's built from learning to trust yourself even when things go wrong. Too many people wait to feel confident until they've mastered the skill, won the prize, or achieved the perfect outcome. But that's backward. The truth is, confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, from showing up even when it's messy, and from knowing deep down that you will follow through no matter what. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful, you need to be committed. Because real confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build through choice, through consistency, through trust. The problem is perfection is a trap. It convinces you that you need to be flawless, to feel worthy, to take action, to speak up, to lead. But perfection is just fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being seen. And when you chase perfection, you avoid the very thing that builds real confidence, action. You hesitate, you second guess, you stay small. All the while your self-trust erodes because you keep breaking the micro-promises you make to yourself by not showing up. Self-trust is the real foundation of confidence. It's the internal certainty that says, I may not have all the answers, but I will figure it out. It doesn't demand perfection, it demands consistency. Every time you do what you said you'd do, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can count on yourself. And when you can count on yourself, the world changes. You stop looking for permission. You stop outsourcing your worth. You move with authority, not because you have everything figured out, but because you know you'll handle whatever comes. The most confident people aren't the most talented. They're the most trained in keeping promises to themselves. They build rituals, routines, and habits that reinforce their identity. They don't need everything to go right to feel powerful. They need to know they will respond with strength, adaptability, and relentless action. That's what self-trust delivers. That's what turns fear into fuel. But when you shift your focus from perfect execution to powerful intention, everything changes. Confidence grows when you show up again and again, even if you stumble. It grows when you choose courage over comfort, when you take the next step, even with a shaky voice and sweaty palms. Each act of aligned effort, no matter how imperfect, sends a signal to your nervous system. I do hard things. I don't quit on myself. I rise. And it all begins with ownership. You build confidence not when things are easy, but when they're uncertain and you choose to move forward anyway. When you build a track record of doing that again and again, your brain begins to associate challenge with capability. Confidence becomes a byproduct, not a goal. It flows from the deep, unshakable belief that you will show up no matter the outcome.